Good morning, guys. This is Miss Theobald coming to you live from inside Google Sheets. Yet another place I live this year, between Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. I'm barely into my first cup of coffee today. But we're going to go over frequently asked questions for the Crucible. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I had you guys submit some questions you had regarding our play, and I've compiled our most common ones here into a really quick short presentation. I'm just going to go over some really common misconceptions, misunderstandings, and just some general whys. And there's going to be a short assignment that comes with this, so make sure you do that. All right. So the first one that I get is, who are all these people, Miss Theobald? I have no idea who belongs to whom and who goes where. So I have included in here an updated version of the character chart that I posted. So let's take a look really quickly. All right, so if you want to kind of follow along with me, I'm going to pull up the pointer so that you can see me a little easier. All right, so basically there's kind of like two camps in our town now. There is the court and then there is the accused. Now, I left the husbands here, even though Frances Nurse won't end up being accused. John Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, Rebecca Nurse, Martha Corey, and Giles Corey will all end up being accused as witches. And so it's kind of an us versus them mentality in our village. Thomas Putnam is like, he's on this side, so I left him over here, but he's not super important other than the fact that like Giles Corey is like, this man's trying to kill people so he can buy their land. And Thomas Putnam is totally doing that, by the way. He has his daughter cry witchery upon a neighbor so that he can hopefully buy his land, because as Giles Corey points out, there is nobody but Thomas Putnam with the money to do so. All right, and then you have kind of this like court section. So you've got Judge Hawthorne, Marshall Herrick, Deputy Governor Danforth, and Reverend Hale all working on the court. There's also a Judge Stoughton and Judge Sewell. They're mentioned, but they're not a huge part of this. All right. Deputy Governor Danforth is the head judge here, with the other guys kind of being underneath him. So he gets the final say. When we were reading yesterday in class, and I posted the audio for this already, we find out that over 400 people are in jail based on the deputy governor's signature and the accusations made by these lovely young women, as well as 72 condemned to hang upon that signature as well, based on the evidence of these girls. Now, John and Giles come into the court and they're all like, the girls are frauds. They are full of crap. And that would look really bad if you were like, I don't know, a man in your 60s who apparently has been fooled by a bunch of 16-year-old girls. So he doesn't like the idea that they're full of it, all right? You've got Reverend Paris, who's also on the court. He's still the most annoying character. And then you have Abby, who's the ringleader of the rest of the girls. As always, Abby is leader. So she'll start, they follow, okay? So what's going on with John and Elizabeth was my next most common question. So a lot of people are like, I don't really understand this affair. So John and Elizabeth are married to one another. And about 7 months ago, John cheated on Elizabeth after she had their most recent child. She developed some postpartum depression, it sounds like, became withdrawn, very sad, very isolated. And so John, seeking affection, turned to someone else, and that person just happened to be Abby. Elizabeth is aware that John cheated on her, and she confronts John. She finds out she's right. She suspects he's cheating. She confronts John. John admits to it. All right. The next one is, why is Abby treated like a saint in the town? People don't understand how Abby went from being like suspected homewrecker to the saint of the town. So in John Hale's, in Act 1, so the part where all the girls are like, in the movie it's when Reverend Paris is like beating Tituba, and then Hale like drags her upstairs, and then all the girls start shouting names. And in the play that happens as well. John Hale's language in Act 1 actually contributes pretty well to this idea of saintlyhood, especially for Abby. He's talking to Tituba, and he calls her and asking her to confess, and he calls her like an instrument of God placed into the town of Salem to call and cry out witchcraft. And so he's like, you're going to be forgiven if you confess. And Abby, ever the opportunist, is like, I don't want to be beaten, so I'm on board. So she starts crying out witchcraft as well. Um, it is believed that she and the other girls are now speaking for God because of this. All right. Why does Abby view herself as better than the others? Abby is loving being the center of attention in town. She loves that people part like the sea. If you're not super familiar with the Bible, they use the biblical illusion of Moses and the people of I believe Egypt needed to cross the sea to be safe, and so he like put his staff in the ground and it parted the sea and they were able to walk like it was land. And so we see that here too. She loves the idea that she's treated almost saint like. She is living for it. All right. Why does the court believe the girls? So you're dealing with a religiously centered society. Hale would have advised the court to believe them. That would be a good starting point to kind of consider is Hale came to the village. He said there are witches. He believes there are witches. He tells the court there are witches. He says the girls are basically instruments of God in terms of witchcraft. And so the girls are supposed to cleanse the village of all this witchery. And so you kind of have this, like, he's kind of set it up so that the girls would be believed. But ultimately, the girls, whether they believe what they're doing, whether they believe they are witched, or whether they believe that this is just for fun, is really fascinating here because they choose to do things that nobody can disprove. Okay. So like, here's an example. So I'm sitting in my room. I'm fine. I'm obviously fine. But like in the play, Abby pretends she's very cold. She's like, oh, I'm so cold. I'm so cold. I'm freezing. Why am I freezing? And nobody can prove that she's not cold. I mean, like, could you? And like she faints, and they're like, well, why would she faint for fun? And she pretends to be stabbed by daggers and like poked by needles, and nobody can really disprove that either. And so they use method. Oh, and they see things. They see things like birds and people, and they're the only ones that can see it. And John, always the voice of reason, tries to point this out. He's like, why are only the people that they accuse guilty? Why are they not guilty too? And so I think that's something to consider as well, is John is the voice of reason, and he's constantly being shouted down by this much larger majority. All right, is it a true story? So a lot of people have been asking me, Misty, about, I don't know, is this a true story? So it is not a true story. The biggest thing that you need to be aware of is that the Salem witch trials really did happen. We don't really know the reason why. The names of the people in the story are the names of the people that would have been alive back then. However, it's a drama for fun. Abby was not, I think, 11, and Betty was 9, and there was no affair. There wasn't anything like that. Like, this stuff of like potentially reaching out for land might be true, but that's about it. Arthur Miller was a suspected communist, and he believed that communists were being persecuted like the witches were during the trials. So he believed that people were being cited without any real evidence as being communists and almost being treated like outcasts for having differing political views. All right. Who is Tituba? A lot of people are like, I don't understand Tituba's role in all of this. All right. So Tituba is literally just Reverend Paris's slave. He brought her to New England when he moved from Barbados, and she's just like a nanny and a servant to the girls. And she, like Ann Putnam points out in the very first act, she points out that she's supposed to have knowledge of conjuring. All right. Why can't Abby just move on from John? All right. So Abby and John had this relationship about 7 months ago. We don't know the duration of the relationship. We don't know if it was a couple months before it was found out. We don't know if it was just one time. But there you have two sides of a very similar coin here. And that's, I think, the bigger issue. You have John, who's in his 30s, and Abby is just 17. And I can't speak for all of you, but I can speak as somebody who is now 30 and can remember what it was like to be a young girl. And Abby's a little boy crazy, and she feels like this could be real love. And to John, this relationship, because he's a little older, he's able to kind of separate out those feelings. And so to him, it's just physical. He even states, he says, the promise a stallion gives to a mare, I gave that girl. He's like, so horses are not in love after they mate. And John's basically saying the same thing here. He's like, I didn't love her. I was just lonely. But Abby believes truly that they are in love. In fact, she believes it so much that she accuses Elizabeth of witchcraft in hopes that she will take Elizabeth's place if she can get Elizabeth hanged. And so she's a very delusional young girl, and it's really sad to see. All right. So that's kind of where we're going to leave off today. So I hope this kind of helps you understand a little bit more about where people are coming and where people are going. You have to remember that at the end of the day, the ultimate goal here is that Abby and John will be reunited. Abby wants to turn the whole town upside down in hopes that she and John will be reunited and he will marry her. And so I don't know about you, but if I had cheated and my spouse attempted to get my actual spouse, or my lover tried to get my actual spouse killed, I don't exactly know if I'd be running over to him. All right, so just kind of keep that in mind. We're going to keep moving forward tomorrow. Mary is currently at the court. She is there to out the girls as frauds, but Mary is of weak constitution, and so she will not do a great job. I've joked before, and I'll say it again, there's nothing more terrifying than a pack of teenage girls. And so Mary's going to fall victim to that. Especially as a former teenage girl, there is nothing more terrifying than a pack of teenage girls, all right? So make sure you complete the question that is assigned here, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me. If I need to update anything in terms of grades, feel free to email me. I am working on getting your Crucible projects graded. Those should be in hopefully by the end of the week, all right? Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.